But being part of something bigger than yourself is excellent training for going into any workplace whatsoever. And if you are able to do that and just grasp that one principle, then you have other principles behind it, like delayed gratification. The horse stance is an excellent example of that. You drop a student into the horse stance, and again, you feel like you can't go any farther, and then you go farther.
Hello, this is James Cox with the Martial Arts Lifestyle, and we're on episode number 46 today. I'm excited to have a special guest. Now, before I even introduce him, I want to acknowledge that the biggest inspiration for me doing this podcast came from my guest today. And this was something that he had me put a little input in a program that he created called Martial Arts in the Workplace. And we're going to talk about that. But, imagine that 15-year-old starting at McDonald's, or, somebody doing an interview for Harvard, whatever it may be, how to utilize life skills and principles, philosophies of the martial arts to be better in life, and specifically to be better as an employee for the employers in the workplace. And what an awesome program. But, that got me thinking about talking and helping other people with my experiences that I have, and talking with the connections I have to other martial artists or martial arts related, to go back to martial arts as a way of life. But I have with me Tony Barker. Tony Barker is pretty well known in our area. Now he's a good friend of mine. He's one of my black belts, as well as an entrepreneur, a speaker, and a professional musician. So there's a lot of ways you can find Tony Barker. But sir, welcome, and maybe you can introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you, Grandmaster. This is such an honor to be here. I love it. I love what you're doing. And I've sent so many people to your school over the years and recommended who some join, some don't, obviously, but the reason being that the things that you train are significant and serious. The training is the real deal martial arts. This is not garlic to fight off vampires. This is the real deal. But the bigger thing is that kids need you in their life. Parents need you in their children's life. And I say that over and over again on Facebook and everywhere when they ask, where should I go to get my kids some training? And I send them here because your training is very solid, very grounded in what works. That's the beginning of Kajukembo, is what works. Premier added some elements of that, but essentially it's what works, and that's what matters. But what mostly matters, in my opinion, is the fact that the way you relate to the kids, and that you're so relentlessly upbeat and positive, and just don't allow negativity around you and the kids. And it's something that since the mid '90s, when we started bleeding together, it's always been. It's just been consistent throughout the years how you want to see the kids' school grades. Not as an indicator of how well they can divide polynomials, but what's their citizenship? What's their, how do they get along? Do they add value to the class, or are they a distraction to the class? And it's clear that your expectations are high, and that makes a mark. High expectations on young people, and it over and over again. We've seen it. We've talked to parents years later, and they'll come in tears and say, "Man, my kid was really struggling with kind of some attitude issues, or things that I wasn't real happy about." And because the training is important to them, that becomes something that we can leverage everything else against. You can't go to class if you don't have your homework done.
Right.
And it's not an argument about, are you going to do your homework? It's like, this needs to be done. Go. I'll help you if you need help. He'll help you if you need help. We'll work it. We'll work it out. But the big picture is that the expectations of excellence carry them from white belt to black belt, beyond, and in life. And like you said, in the workplace, when if you think about it, school itself as an institution pours into the young people. It gives them structure. It gives them rule following. It gives them, a diploma. It gives them this and that and the other. And then once you're graduated and you're done with high school or you're done with college, you go to a workplace and you are now evaluated based on what you can provide to the employer. what you can add to the team.
Your value, right?
Your value to the team is not your ability to write your name in the proper order and all these things. Your value to the team is what you bring to your employer, so that when your boss, for example, when your boss is in need, you're the one that shows up, even if the weather's bad or if there's a little snow on the ground or anything like that. You're the one that they can count on and they can rely on. And martial arts training facilitates that in a major, high impact way. You do it even if it's hard. You do it even if you feel like the next push-up is going to kill you. And you do that push-up, and that leaves a mark on you. And that mark can be read by others who have that mark, others who have been through difficult things and pressed through. Whether they succeeded or failed, the pressing through is what matters. And you think you can't do another push-up, and along comes somebody like this guy and says, 5 more, you can do it, you can do it.
And they do. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's because you believe in them. You make them believe in themselves, and that's huge.
Yeah.
It's enormous.
You're right, man. That's awesome. Awesome way you worded all of that. And I appreciate all of that. I'm fortunate that I come from good instructors. I mean, I could have fell into any martial arts class, and I fell into something that was empowering, and I was able to pass it down. And a lot of years of teaching, and making a lot of mistakes as well on what we do. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about that martial arts in the workplace. And you started talking about what the employee and expectations of the employer, and man, the young generation, right? As we get a little older, not a lot older, right?
Right, not a lot.
Bit older here. Then it's easy to be that old man and talk about these kids nowadays.
Get off my lawn.
But, it doesn't mean they're bad. They're not bad human beings. They're different at a different age and time in life.
Absolutely.
In the world, right?
And we were too. We all are basically. The essence of martial arts has a lot of, when you get down to the fundamentals. Kajukembo was born with the saying around, a block is a block, a punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. Just get the work done. Make your fundamentals so solid that anything you add to that is building on a very solid foundation. Right. And the same way with when you expand it, when you take a step back, martial arts is a lot about respect for the institution. When you come in, you salute before you step onto the mat. The mat is, in some people's mind, almost a sacred space, and even if you don't go that far, it's certainly worthy of respect, not just for the instructor that day, but their instructor, up to you, up to your instructors, and passed for thousands of years back. So you're associated with something much, much bigger than the individual. And that's a huge concept to press on a young mind. So because it's easy for kids to kind of get wrapped around themselves. It's easy for anyone to get wrapped around themselves. The internet is full of ways that you can have self-empowerment, and you can feel better just because you've decided to feel better.
The 7 steps.
Right. And you do all of that, but being part of something bigger than yourself is excellent training for going into any workplace whatsoever. And if you are able to do that and just grasp that one principle, then you have other principles behind it, like delayed gratification. The horse stance is an excellent example of that. You drop a student into the horse stance, and again, you feel like you can't go any farther, and then you go farther. What that does is it makes that mark on you, so where you've been through difficult things and you know that you can get through them. And that's what's huge. Those that have not, or that kind of fake it, or that just decide arbitrarily they're not going to have any regrets about anything, without any foundation in the work that they've put in. They're the ones that kind of need the break from the teacher, and they need their boss to, just cut them a little slack, or maybe they need the judge to, show a little mercy. We need, and those leaders in those institutions have all done the difficult things, and they can kind of smell it coming when you're the guy that always needs the break. You haven't really worked it. You haven't really earned it. You haven't really, made yourself into someone who just gets the job done even when it's difficult. Most of the really major decisions that impact your life The major decisions. Do I hire this person or not? Who do we let go and who do we keep? Who do we promote? All of those decisions are made in a room that you're not invited into. What speaks for you in that room is what you've done. It's not what you've said you were going to do. It's not not any of those things. And your only advocate in that room is somebody standing up and saying, whoever we let go, we got to keep this guy because he's a contributor. He makes things happen. And your voice in that room is your accomplishments. And when your expectations of excellence and expectations of accomplishments are such that you just get the job done, then all kinds of good things happen after that. Then somebody in that room stands up and speaks for you. And you're obviously the guy that they're going to keep. I mean, they can convene that meeting knowing that, well, whoever else we get rid of, this guy makes our company more valuable. As opposed to the guy that we got to kind of trap him like a rat so that he goes, it takes him 30 minutes to take out the trash because he's going to decide that's a break and he's going to Google up his phone and he's going to, do all that sort of stuff. That difference in mentality requires for transformational thinking. And martial arts in the workplace is all about asking for that transformation. It's because a lot of people just assume, okay, well, you're here now, so we assume that you're going to behave in a way that makes my company more valuable. But you really have to ask. And the young people that I've been privileged to speak to have said, nobody's told me why. I would resent having to put my phone in a locker or lock it away or whatever. I would be resentful of it. And when you explain to them, look, I need all of your focus. I'm paying you for your time, which means I'm paying you for the quality of your time. The what my company gets out of it. We're trying to make a profit, and if you're the one pulling us backwards, if you're an anchor in the boat, then kind of we need somebody else in that position instead of you. If on the other hand you have made that transition and you said, okay, well, I need to do what makes the company better. A couple of things are going to happen. One, those that your coworkers are all going to say, well, he's brown nosing, all that sort of stuff. Right. That's going to happen. And those guys they don't have your best interest in mind. You're just making them look bad because they haven't made that transformation. So they can find 1,000 ways to pull you back down to their level so that they look better. But understand that when you contribute to the company, you are helping yourself and your kids and your family, the company, and all that sort of stuff. And when your boss gets promoted and there's an opening right here, you become the obvious choice to fill that position. And that's what happens. At that point, you need another transformation because now you're accountable not just for what you do, but what these three people do. Which is a different sort of a way of thinking. But you can get trained in that thinking. And martial arts prepares you for that, in my opinion, because there are so many times when you're struggling with something in martial arts. I remember watching one of your instructors, Kyle Kress, do an amazing kick. He was very close quarters, and he was kicking this bag, and he was making thunder happen. We were getting noise complaints from right. And I could not figure out for the life of me how to do it. It wasn't mine to do. I was sort of stealing the thing. I was sort of famous for that. I would come in and watch the black belts all the time. But he was just making thunder happen with very little space. So I would try and for months I would try, because he would come in, he was like rotating different schools, and he came in one time and I asked him about it, and I was so focused on how to position my foot and how to position my knee and how to do this sort of thing. And what he said was, it's your plant foot. If you spin and make your heel face your opponent, then all of the rest of the things you've been working on come together in a flow. And the very next time I tried that, I made the thunder.
You're missing a detail.
I was missing a small but fundamental, critical detail, and it just doesn't work without that detail.
Your focus was elsewhere, so tunnel on this part, not forgetting what that other part is.
Yes, sir. And I can't count the number of times you've done that same thing for me. Struggling as a young, a yellow belt with a sidekick. Well, turn your foot. It's the plant foot that helps, and make sure you chamber properly. All those, and learning the chamber was difficult because you can't see the end game. The horse stance is an absolutely, I'll say it, a ridiculous fighting posture, because if you stand in the horse stance, there's an obvious opening for an opponent to reposition body parts that don't need to be repositioned. But the benefit of doing it is super strong legs, incredible balance, the getting through the pain part, the benefits, but you can't see it at the time. And I remember he used to tease you about it, because he's the kind of instructor you could tease even with, multiple stripes on his belt. I said, "Sir, we don't really need you to show up. We just need a recording of you going, 'Get lower!'"
Right. Kick higher, get lower. No matter how low they got or how high they kick.
Absolutely.
Get lower, kick higher,
and
straighten your feet.
And it sounds, if you don't see the end game, you just have to trust him, or whoever your instructor is. You just have to trust that his intentions are good. His intentions are going to benefit you. He doesn't make any more money if you have a good horse stance. He doesn't get anything out of that except stronger students.
Right. That make better people. And I love your correlation with, what we talk, the mental benefits with the physical moves. Yeah, so doing a horse stance where we're really instilling perseverance, discipline, the no-quit attitude, thinking you could, you may want to give up, but you don't, right? Sticking with it. And if it's in the workplace or in the martial arts training, it's those same things, right? And setting the goals and all of that. What do you think are the biggest challenges, dealing with that? And so we're trying to educate these people as well as motivating them, but it can be a challenge, especially if the communication through generation gap, if you would, right? Is not the same. So to relate to different generations, right?
I guess I would answer that question by saying that if we can successfully answer the why question, if we can explain why you should do this, why it's in your interest to fill in the blank, stay in the horse stance, put your phone away when you're at work, have a better attitude, why you should do that, why it's in your interest, then we're in a lot better position to even communicate. Because until they understand why it's good for them to do these things, then you can talk for a week and it's going to just bounce off their self-interest. But if you can tune their self-interest into getting through the hard part, and they can understand that, and that's where that breakthrough moment, that eureka moment happens. Like, okay, I get it. I thought they were just being mean, and they're not being mean. They're being supportive. But until you get through that tough filter,
right.
And that happens everywhere. You mentioned that I'm a musician. One of the things that can happen with musicians is that you get surrounded by your family and your friends that all tell you, "Oh man, you're so great, you're so wonderful." But the guy that says, "That sounded pretty good, but it's a little messy here, it's a little muddy, or you're here's where you can get better." Those are the filters that you have to seek out, because it's so easy to find people that, "Oh man, that is so wonderful, that's great." But the ones that say, I got stuck there one time before, and here's what I did, and I got through that. And that's what high-level instructors do. They say, whatever problem you're having, he's dealt with it and successfully navigated his way through it.
Yeah, self-awareness, empathy. I remember when I had a problem with that round kick, and then giving a solution to that problem, right?
It feels so good.
Here's why or how, and steps. Because we all need some mentors, don't we? We all need some guidance. If it's a martial arts instructor or the right employee or seeking out the right knowledge, we have so much at our fingertips today as well. But
I thank you a million times for being that mentor for me, martial arts wise and world wise. You've instilled some thought patterns in me, not necessarily. In some cases just a great idea, but in some cases, as I hold those moments when you're willing to have, I just recently had a difficult conversation with someone, and it was a mentor of mine, and she said, sometimes the quality of your life is greatly impacted by the number of difficult conversations you're willing to have with your friend. I've been working with a conflict resolution specialist. I'm very deeply in a sincere relationship with this lady, and she does the same thing that you do, holds up a mirror to me, and with love and support says, is this how you want to present yourself to the world, or to this audience, or to this class? Is this how you want to be seen and remembered? And that is unpleasant. Just the idea of hearing you say the same thing I just said, but with a positive spin, and you knew that it was coming, but the idea that it was my responsibility to look at it and go, okay, well, I wasn't positive in that moment, and it was liable to impact all these dominoes going that way instead of going that way. And it's a tough thing to hear, but those are the things that make you worth listening to later. When you've done that. And I remember there was a number of things that, sometimes just your presence, I'm having this conversation, you'll walk up and kind of join the conversation, and just knowing what your expectations are elevates my expectations for how that conversation is going to be. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. It's profound, this idea of expecting excellence from yourself and others, because people will live up or down to your expectations. And that's the part where I would encourage every mother to bring their kids to your class, because not only do you do that, that's how you train your instructors. And I've seen your instructors over and over and over again expect excellence. Ask for just a little bit more. Ask for a little bit. Yeah, it's hard, but you could do it. I know you can do it. And that's the environment that you've created. And it is so profound when they take that to school or the workplace or church or any social group or their friends, and they can look and evaluate, and they have something to compare their behavior and others' behavior to, and say, I want more of this, or I want less of this. And it's because that you've set the mark, and you've, they use the word role model. You're a role model. Okay, I want to be like Grandmaster James. Well, what do I have to do that? Well, I got to not do that, not do as much of that, do more of that. And it's easy to make really big decisions one at a time. You break them down into manageable pieces, and your outcome becomes better.
Right. Yeah, definitely, man, 100%. And it's kind of magical how it all happens. And you may have to create a little discipline to move it to self-discipline, right? Do as I say, that kind of usually will eventually become enough habits built to they did it on their own.
Absolutely.
Later you can only tell someone to keep their hands up so many times,
and then they get punched in the beak a few times, and now they're motivated.
Some consequences of it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things. You've seen a lot of evolution with the martial arts as well as with the world, because you're out there, and you always show up well with what you do. Very artistic and very intelligent. Mr. Tony, I know you've done the martial arts in the workplace, some of these other things, some conflict resolution, some civility. It's almost like a movement concept that you're really reaching for.
The civility project, the civility plan is what I call it, because there is a plan. And it basically, in a nutshell, talks about this nasty political world that we find ourselves. There are things that reward bad behavior, and what I'm trying to do is to try to shine a light on that and say, we don't need to do that. Let's go in this positive direction. Not necessarily changing anybody's mind about any given issue, but asking everyone to disagree a little better, a little more agreeably, because the disagreements are how we grow. It's that mirror looking at each other, all that sort of stuff. That's how, America was built to be, to show different sides, to give our voice to the weak. We were built to be somewhat inefficient. Efficient is a king saying, if you don't like what I say, off with your head. That's efficient. But we're built differently, and we've gone too far in being tribal. we take an issue, once it becomes a political issue, the idea of coming to the best answer is sort of off the table, because it's about now winning for our side. We have to win, so they have to lose, and that's not the best way forward. So we're getting to what I think is a pretty dangerous time where we can't talk to each other about coming ahead, about solving problems. It just matters a whole lot. So I in August of 2019, I went to a cabin in the mountains, and I wrote a book called The Civility Plan. Couldn't quite drag it across the finish line yet, but I'll do that. We'll have a podcast or anything like that.
All right, we'll do that.
And so I've written some songs about that, and but that's the gist of it. Let's disagree better, because disagreement is built into our system. We disagree, or we don't agree on the best possible way, and if we can do that with a little bit more class, I think we have a chance of looking back on America 50 years from now, going, man, we had a rough time, but we made it. We got through.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people besides just me doing it.
Yeah, right. And teamwork and togetherness, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love the. I tell my staff at times, and remember to myself as well, that we want to listen to understand, not listen to defend. Like sometimes you try to get your point across, and before you even get it out, it's already defense, right? And instead of maybe understanding, and you don't have to agree with, right? And
Right,
that's
right.
part of that communication. And
Sometimes that's habit. Sometimes that's people want to be agreed with. They want their tribe, they want their community to support them in what they're doing and feeling and thinking.
it's beautiful to teach a white belt that knows nothing versus having someone come in as a 6th-degree black belt and 12 different styles that know
Right.
so much. And are they able to empty their cup to refill it? Are they able to accept your way? Let's do this move this way. Well, my sensei showed me, oh, great, here I go, rolling my eyes already.
Right.
Well, that's great, but I'm showing you this way, and I'm sure that way was amazing.
Sure,
So you
absolutely.
keep what you have on the table, and you can add to that instead of just,
Yeah.
you kind of got to at times be in that present moment to do that. This is what you're learning now.
Right,
Right.
right. And
my way was better. My style is better.
I remember that, and it's the middle belts too. That'll come in from a different place, and they're very married to what they used to do, and
Or where they find it. Well, I saw on YouTube that. I was like, oh, great. Okay, I'm sure what you saw on YouTube was the correct way.
sure, or at least a correct way,
Yeah,
and that's that's an example of the relentless positivity. There are times, and I'll say this to spare you. There are some things on YouTube that are not the best way. Okay.
What? If it's on Facebook, it's not true.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
odd. And I feel like I'm stepping out onto a cliff there. But even the stuff that's not the best way can be a learning experience. Hopefully you make it through whatever it was. But there's been times when I've looked at stuff and go, man, I wouldn't want to, But if you've been through the foundations and the fundamentals in any style, anywhere along the line, you develop a sense of how does this measure against what I've fundamentally learned, what I've done, and you can get to where you trust yourself about your judgment. About making better decisions, and that's what it's about, making a bunch of better decisions one day at a time.
Yeah. With wisdom and experience, you can make a more educated decision. Right?
Sure, and intention.
Yeah.
That matters a lot. Wisdom and experience, and unfortunately, wisdom and experience comes from the lack of wisdom and the lack of experience.
Been there, done it. Right.
If you get a lot of experience in stopping nosebleeds, well, you'll keep your hands up.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Well, Tony, anything else you would like to add? Tips, pointers, things for the listeners, and yeah.
I would stay tuned to this channel because I'm not. I've been accused a lot of just being your fanboy, and I'm totally guilty. Fine with that, But there's wisdom and experience in the people that you talk to. I've seen, I think if not all of them, then most of them, and it's an honor for me to sit in the chair that Jay Berkey has sat in, and there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience coming from these microphones, and it's an amazing thing. So find wisdom and experience wherever you can, and you find enough, and you'll be able to evaluate it more effectively. You'll say, okay, well, that one thing on YouTube, if all I have to do is disappear from here and appear behind him, that's probably not going to work out very well. But if you you get to the point where you can tell what works and what matters and what doesn't, both in martial arts and in life.
True.
And I try to add what you've given to me. So I will if you don't mind, a shameless plug for my website.
100%. Yeah. Hey, man, I have you here because, again, you really inspired me the most to do this. You didn't know that. You never said, hey, do a podcast. But the things that you were doing about teaching martial arts principles and philosophies, but not in a karate school and not to martial artists, and not even necessarily trying to enroll them to be martial artists, but how you were able to cross over those things. And it's like, man, I could talk to people, and maybe I'll talk to martial artists, maybe I'll talk to instructors, maybe I'll talk to people that never have or never will do martial arts, but they can still gain some things from that, right?
Well, that comes in a circle, because my inspiration comes from...
Yeah, right? How ironic, huh? Yeah.
Yeah,
we want people to follow you and
sure.
in your work and connect. So tell us how we can do that.
I had a bunch of different websites for the music and for the speaking and all this other stuff, but I combined them all into TonyBarkerMedia.com. TonyBarkerMedia.com. I say that because I was in radio for a while too. TonyBarkerMedia.com. And so if you go there, that you can get in touch with me. There's my email and all that good stuff, and you can find out more about the civility plan and the civility idea. And again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind about how they feel about all these things. I'm just trying to encourage us to find a better way forward through them. And I hope I can do it. And there's a group of congressmen that are called the Problem Solvers Caucus. They're Republicans and Democrats that have fundamental differences in how they believe the role of government should be in our lives. But when they can get together, when they can agree, when they can display civility, they make a point of doing that. And it doesn't get nearly enough PR, so I'm going to shout that from the news. I'm going to shout that from every hill I can get. But if there are so many things that reward terrible behavior. We get likes and we get comments and we get our friends on our Facebook page that is like, ooh, yeah, you really stuck it to them, yeah. And it just doesn't. That's not going to get us anywhere we want to be.
Miserable,
so
right?
That's what. Yeah, absolutely. Just stay miserable, stay angry. Not the best plan. Let's try another thing, because we've done that for thousands of years. I'll poke you in the eye, you poke me in the eye. We're all blind, and we've done that. Let's try a new thing. I believe we can evolve. I believe we're in a position to evolve as a species from here. We've got the tools. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now.
I agree, and I think we're going somewhere. So you guys follow Tony. That communication is key. I think a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master can get along with the Muay Thai master. Right? They're night and day on those beliefs as well. So
Absolutely.
just like in life and martial arts and religion and everything, and everywhere that we go, food preferences. Where do you want to go eat? Oh, here, there. Right.
Right.
Why do you want to go eat there? A deeper question. Well, guys, I appreciate you, Tony. Thanks for showing up today and giving us some education, motivation, entertainment, all that. You guys follow Tony. Continue following these podcasts. We have some great ones from the past and in the future. So follow it, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, James Cox Martial Arts. You guys take care.